Hey, this is Chris Gore. You're listening to Dr. Gonzo Radio on Dr. Gonzo Piqua something.com. I don't know. What am I supposed to say?
Yeah, we'll have Zach. I'll have Zach do the next bumper.
So, hey, Dr. Gonzo's here.
Put a dime in him, you gotta let the whole song play out.
He's like human jukebox.
Oh, he's a talker, ain't he?
He's an old fat grandpa man.
Play just a little clip of where I think we're at with the filmmaking.
Not bluffing.
They know. They just don't care.
I mean, I think that's where we're at with the movies. You know, I don't. I'm going to pop around a little bit right now, Brett, and get input from you as well. I think Marvel is going in the direction of Kamala Khan. I think they're leading off with the zombies. I have nothing against Iman Vellani, but she clicks a box there because she's the first Muslim superhero, and I don't care about that stuff. I don't care about
nobody does either.
What your religion is, what your sexual preference is. In polite society, we don't ask. It doesn't matter. Is a person nice or not? But I think Kevin Feige is going to double down on DEI. It's not going away. Girl power is not going to go away. With Marvel, and there's rumors around about Ryan Reynolds replacing Feige, but those are just rumors. Now, would I go for that? Yeah, because Ryan Reynolds knows how to make money and he can make the fans happy. Let me make a point on that. Deadpool and Wolverine, the kids watch different stuff these days. You know, people were, had complaints about DC with Peacemaker, which we'll get into that as well, and that was pretty graphic. But Deadpool and Wolverine did not get to over $1 billion with just adults watching it. So I was in the theater and people loved Deadpool and Wolverine, and there were a lot of kids in there. Now there were words used in there that I had to have. One word was used. I don't know. It wasn't a bad word. It was pegging, and I had to. I didn't know what that referenced. And so I asked one of my sons, I said, what does pegging mean? And Steven goes, Dad, I'm not comfortable talking with you about that. Could you just Google it, please? And then I thought, I Googled it. I thought, Deadpool 1. Okay, right. I get it now, but it's gross stuff. But Ryan Reynolds also knows how to make good movies for kids. The Adam Project on Netflix is a perfect example of that, where he goes through the past and the future. So who knows with Marvel, but I don't think they're going to give up DEI at this time. I think they're really going to focus on Kamala Khan, reason being during Daredevil Born Again, that's what I'll call that series. They had Kamala Khan's dad in there. He was at the bank or whatever, and he was talking her up. Kamala Khan is the first mutant in the MCU. In the comics, she had Terrigen Mist, I think, and was an Inhuman. So it's a little bit different. But I don't mind Iman Vellani, but I don't think she's that good of an actress. She's like a Nickelodeon level actress. She's not as good as like Daphne Keane, who's intense, who can hold her own on screen with Hugh Jackman, as Wolverine. And if you see the early audition tapes with Daphne Keane when she was little,
no, she's got screen presence. She's got screen presence, whether she's a star or not. I don't know. I mean,
I think that's out, but I like her. I think she does a good job on film. She was in The Acolyte. I didn't know that till after the fact. I had watched that, and she was a little horned Jedi.
Okay.
And she did
Yeah.
a good job.
Yeah.
You know, I think Millie Bobby Brown does a good job in some movies, you know.
She's definitely got probably some, I think she's got some star power. You know, she could be, I mean, she's got a lot of chops. She's very talented, but, you know, these movies used to be stacked with stars, really, you know, high powered, high caliber stars. Like where's Michael Fassbender? Where's, you know, I mean, Kelsey Grammer. I mean, I just think about all the people that have been in the X-Men movies when they were intent on casting big names, talent, and having sort of this big rounded out ensemble. And I mean, even guys like Matt, you know, what's his name, Marsden, who played Cyclops. You know, great actor. You know, really skilled.
Yeah.
Halle Berry. I mean, I don't understand what they're doing. You know,
I don't think they understand what they're doing.
Other than spending all their money on the special effects and the CGI and making these 2-hour movies when they should be making probably like hour and 40-minute movies. You know, I was looking at, they're going to release the director's cut of Rocky IV into the theater. And that was Stallone's project during COVID. You know, during COVID, he had nothing to do and he couldn't film anything. So he went back and he recut Rocky IV. It's called Rocky versus Drago. And he did a great job. I really liked. He radically changed the funeral sequence, tightened up some of the fight sequences, tinkered with the sound. You know, not a whole lot, but he ended up cutting like 4 or 5 minutes out of it. And I just thought to myself, it wasn't that long of a movie to begin with, but now it's like an hour and 39 minutes. You know, whereas maybe it was an hour and 45 minutes. But I also bought recently. Arrow Video did a re-release of Cobra, and that's a great movie. George Cosmo.
Oh yeah.
And Stallone, and you know he's got two of the guys from Dirty Harry in there, and Brigitte Nielsen, and it's a kind of a cult movie at this point, but it's a really solid action movie when you go back and you watch it. And
love the car.
That Hornet's fantastic. But that's another like hour and a half, hour and 40-minute movies. They need to be making these movies shorter. They don't need to be so long, and you could cut down on your budget. And I think part of the fatigue that's going on, you know, with some of these movies, and maybe that's just not superhero movies, but I think movies in general, is that they're just too long. I don't, you know, I mean, back in the day, I understand like a Scorsese or a Coppola or Michael Mann. We all sort of accepted that these auteur guys would probably clock in somewhere around 2 hours. De Palma, you know, but honest to God, every movie, you know, 2 hours. It's just like, even F1, which I loved. There's probably some fat in there that you could cut to maybe make it a little bit tighter. But otherwise, I think especially action movies, I think they need to be shorter.
Well, and my thing was with long movies, Oppenheimer was really long, but I was so engaged. The dialogue was so good.
It went fast.
You know, the time went by so quickly.
That's a fast, you know, I never figured I'd ever say this, but it's a fast 3 hours. But there are other movies like that. I know, you know, Ben-Hur, I think that's a really long movie. You know, Gone with the Wind, some of these movies, The Shining, some of these movies are really long. Kubrick typically always makes long movies. But they're sort of economical. They don't feel like you've been sitting. There's a pace, and you know it's kind of like a rhythm, and they just stick to it. So
okay, so I'm going to talk
a testament to the bad writers that they have in Hollywood.
Oh my gosh,
who can barely string together three. You know, a beginning, middle, and an end. I mean, they always fail. They always open up big. They, you know, it gets slow in the middle, and then they close with a paltry, half-assed third act. Nobody knows how to do third acts outside of maybe Tom Cruise and, you know, Kaczynski and maybe, you know, a couple people. But it's amazing how bad, the writing is, and I think that's probably more a testament to why people have fatigue. Yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily superhero fatigue, but I think they have bad movie fatigue. So,
or Pedro Pascal fatigue, and I'm going to get into the FF.
Dude needs to go away. It's like Jim Carrey. You know, there was
set aside Pedro Pascal's politics. I don't like them.
He's a dork.
I went and saw Fantastic Four, and I went and saw it twice to try to give the guy the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
But he did it like, oh man, he was just such a dry Reed Richards, and it looked like Mexican Reed Richards because of the mustache. I'm not prejudiced. People that know me, we're both from
Doesn't
Phoenix.
look
We
like
grew up.
Reed. He doesn't
He
look like
doesn't
Reed.
look like Reed.
It made no sense. It made
Let
no
me.
sense. He checked a box, and that's how they got a budget. I understand wanting to attach a star because that's how you get meat in the seats.
Well, and we also got this right here.
Or I can bring you in cold.
He was great in that.
I mean, he didn't really have to act that much in that, but he still had that same kind of drone thing. If Marvel was smart, they'd put the helmet on him and make him the Maker, Reed Richards.
That the first season of Mandalorian is near perfect. There's a couple episodes in there which are kind of, but I mean, even then they're very good. But especially that pilot, it's stunning. And he, that sort of drone, that sort of voice that he takes on in that movie,
that works
perfect for the character.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, what I want to see is a prequel to The Mandalorian. I want to see all of the jobs that guy's been on for the last year and a half or whatever, just on his own.
That'd be cool.
But at the same time, I love the lone wolf and cub aspect to it. I mean, that was immediately what I saw after when I discovered
right,
what they were
that old
do.
Japanese series, right?
Yeah, exactly. Baby Card Assassin, which I read, the comics when they re-released those in the 80s through First Comics did those. Frank Miller did all the covers with Lynn Varney.
Oh, did you really? Okay.
Yeah. I'm sure there's an omnibus of that. I'm sure there's a collected works of all those. But I've still got a lot of those issues. But I had never seen anything like that before. That kind of artwork, that Japanese artwork. It was amazing.
Now say what you want about Multiverse of Madness, but here's a Reed Richards.
I'm the smartest man alive. Reed Richards of the Fantastic Four. Hello, Stephen.
Stephen, your arrival here confuses and destabilizes reality. The larger the footprint you leave behind, the greater the risk of an incursion.
Incursion?
An incursion occurs when the boundary between two universes erodes, destroying one or both entirely. From our experience.
Now there's a guy, because I asked my sons and a lot of people about what did you think of Pedro Pascal, and they really liked him. I said, but he had that monotone delivery compared to John Krasinski. So that's showing that you can be smart and be scientific, and I just think he lacks it in the delivery. On that movie, the Human Torch all of a sudden got real smart, and he can now figure out alien languages. He wasn't gay. I'm not against gays, don't care, but he's with he likes the naked alien girl and figures out her language. Right. So he's like a fellow scientist.
Polymath. Wow, amazing. That's amazing. Yeah.
And so and the Thing, for sure don't like that guy's politics. The Thing in the comics did not cook. He did not cook. In one of the later, in like 2017, I saw they put out a Clobber in Time omelet. I had a picture of that.
Right, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that was more of a nod to the actor. I forget his name. But he was in The Bear as a restaurant owner. So it was more of a nod to him that Vanessa Kirby's lovely. I think her eyebrows look like two woolly worms, but she's a beautiful person.
Those 90s eyebrows are back in. So
yeah. No, I thought she did a good job. She wasn't really a girl boss, but nobody pushed back. See, on that Fantastic Four, they were more like the John Hickman run of Fantastic Four with the Future Foundation.
Yeah.
And the Fantastic Four on that world was basically ruling the world. So who are you going to call fascist now? And I thought they were pushing the limit when Sue was using her powers to push back Galactus. She's powerful, but I've never known her to not be that powerful. She just couldn't have did it. Now she was fighting for a kid, and the scenes with her baby, that baby was cute. I mean,
Yeah.
and when she, spoiler, she kind of died for a minute before Franklin gave her, what is it? What is that power called?
I know what you're talking about. I don't remember what it's called though. Franklin's powers.
The power. Oh gosh, I'm blanking out here. The power cosmic. The power cosmic.
Gotcha.
And you could tell that he kind of gave that to her because her eyes lit up, and then she came back alive. Now, as a parent and a grandparent with four grandkids, that touched me, and I like that. I didn't like the Rose Tika moment where Human Torch goes to make the sacrifice, and Girl Silver Surfer, Surfette, knocks him out of the way. Now they doubled down on Shalabal was in that long in the comics.
Yeah,
she had no balls, and when they recut the scene where she sacrifices herself for the planet, it was a catch-22. They couldn't have showed Norrin Rad, who was her lover,
right,
in the comics.
That's right,
because then they would have said, "Oh, the dad didn't make the sacrifice. The girl did. So I'm sure they didn't want to do that. But where's the father in all these movies? Where's the father in Lightyear? I mean, we could go on and on and on and on.
It's all emasculated. I mean, Disney said that recently that they want boys back. And it's just, well, they don't know how to make entertainment for boys. There are no boys brands. There's no overt boys brands anywhere. I don't see anything even remotely similar to the boys brands that I had growing up. And I mean, just off the top of my head, G.I. Joe, Transformers, Thundercats, He-Man, some of these were $1 billion franchises in the 80s. So do the inflation, do the math with inflation. What would they be today? But nobody is everything is either leans toward being female or it's gender neutral, and even when you look at manga, I mean, the rise of manga, the popularity of manga, you're going to sit here and tell me that there isn't an androgyny to manga? Of course there is. I mean, there's a big difference between somebody like Neil Adams or John Buscema or John Byrne, or frankly, some of the South American artists that used to work at Marvel back in the day. These are really masculine artists, and they had this kind of they had this archetypal American style that really appealed to boys like me. Yeah,
and back on Fantastic Four, the first act was a real snooze. Ryan, who's that? Ryan Merding? How do you pronounce? He does. He's an artist. Ryan, it's Myding something. I'm sure if I said his name correctly, you would know who that is. He does great art.
Okay.
It does a lot of the layouts and the look. And the look was cool. Yeah. It wasn't really retro for the 60s because nobody was smoking cigarettes, but it had a cool look. It was like walking into Tomorrowland.
Right.
I remember my first experience, but
that's what I thought of.
Look can only last so long. I want to see the Fantastic Four do superhero stuff. Now, why did they had the Fantastic Four fighting the two monkeys? They cut John Malkovich's scene. I would love to have seen him as the Red Ghost, and they cut his scene. Maybe once they put it out on video, they'll add some of that stuff
probably
back in.
Yeah.
But I wanted some action. I wanted to see superheroes doing superhero stuff. I mean, Ben Grimm was basically sideline, and his voice, it was okay. It's not Mike Chiklis.
It just didn't work for me, man. I mean, that was the first thing I noticed was, wow. I'm like, they didn't even add any kind of effects to it to make it kind of gravelly or rocky, because his insides are all rock too. They're just rock organs and stuff. I mean, it's right. That just killed me. The
beard was really awful too.
Yeah, what is that about? I mean, what?
Well, that was in. I had to go look.
I know
at
he's had a beard before.
It was in Hickman's run.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I know why they added it.
Why? Who had beards in the 60s other than like beatniks? You know,
Yeah.
nobody had beards, and that's a '70s thing when beards come in. You know,
Yeah,
but
hipster dudes and stuff.
whatever. I mean, I just Feige is never going to leave. He's never going to step down. He's going to have to be challenged by somebody. I don't know, man. They've just lost it, and all you got to do is just go back and look at some of the first Marvel movies, and you can kind of understand sort of the template that they were applying back then, which was, a tentpole franchise centered around a big star who has star power, and that's that's Evans, that's Hemsworth, that's RDJ. Those are those early films, and and Hollywood doesn't have stars anymore. They don't. That doesn't really happen. I mean, there are stars left, but I don't see any new stars really emerging on the same level as some of the stars that obviously you and I grew up with. So it's just not the same.
And Marvel's getting too predictable, and things don't add up. I mean, I wonder if they watch their own movies, because in the Thunderbolts or the New Avengers, I don't know how you can call them Avengers, but whatever. In a post-credit scene, they have the Fantastic Four ship coming into sight there.
Okay.
And nothing at the end of Fantastic Four. They had the Doctor Doom is sitting there with a 4-year-old Franklin. Spoiler alert for everybody who hasn't seen this. And Franklin touches his face. So pretty much he's probably healing the scars and turning him into RDJ, which would be a cool thing, because there's some What If comics and other ones, Demon in the Armor and some of those other comic books, which would make up for that. And with Spider-Man coming out, that would be a really good post-credit scene in Spider-Man to lead into Doomsday.
Yeah.
For Doom to show up looking like Tony Stark. That'd be the ultimate deception for Spider-Man. But even with that, they're using Yelena in all these movies and all these things. I think they're tripling down on the girl brand, and they said they want Gen Z and they want boys back, but like you said, they don't know how to make
They don't know how to make a guys movie. I think the Russo brothers are talented guys, but at the same time, I just think they want their cake and eat it too. They want the girls, they want the boys, but they're willing to cater to the girls. Whereas really, all of the action films that we grew up with, and especially probably the 80s and the 90s action films, men want to go see those, obviously, but women have no problem going as well. It's when it's reversed and you have the rom-com that you have a harder time getting the guy to go with the girl. The girl will go with her friends, but to get the guy to go, that's always a little bit of a stretch. But I think that with action movies that are written for men, by men, masculine men, real men, not the Hollywood writers.
The man.
Outside of Taylor Sheridan currently, he knows how to write for men.
Oh yeah.
But he also knows how to write for women. I mean, that's a great example of a guy who really kind of creates shows.
Has the balance.
Targeted towards men, but at the same time, the girls are happy to watch.
Good-looking guys.
Good-looking guys, masculine guys, but also strong women. Women that they can see themselves in. But it all comes down to, the demographic is very different. The two are very different, and they want very different things. The boys want to be the hero. They don't want to see themselves in the hero, whereas the girls want to see themselves in the protagonist, whereas the boys want to be the protagonist. I want to be Optimus Prime. I don't want to see myself in him. He's a robot. But it's like, it's the same with, I want to be Cobra. I want to be Marion Cobretti, and blow the bad guys away. It's a fundamental misunderstanding of what the demo wants. And everybody at Disney has the same problem as a lot of people in Hollywood. They're all sitting around smelling their own farts. Nobody from the outside gets in, and they don't want to listen to anybody that says, and we'll tell them the obvious, is that you don't know how to write for men. You don't know how to write for boys. you know, you write these emasculated characters, and maybe you're getting some semblance of the female population into the theater, but you're not going to get the guys, and you're never going to get the guys until you make fundamental changes and agree that there's a difference between what the two demos want, and that's okay. But everything's got to be this gender neutral, and I think it's somewhat of a DEI thing and a quotas thing, and I also think it's just a misunderstanding of how to get people into the theater, because you can acknowledge that there's a difference between the genders, but so much of it is just sort of whitewashed, sort of this genderless, gender fluid, you know, and you just end up with this blah, this nothing, this you know, nothing burger that nobody wants to watch. You know, it's like that that crazy Madam Web movie. I mean,
that's criminal, dude. You know, and you know, the bad thing about Madam Web was the costumes were cool.
They were cool. They
were in it for like a minute. You know, I mean,
we don't even understand that the audience, especially the guys, want to see the authenticity in the costumes, and they want to see the characters in the costumes as much as possible. You know, I mean, you go back to Batman. I mean, Batman Begins, he doesn't get into the suit until about halfway through the movie, but at least you've got the rest of the movie in the suit, you know, but you have the benefit of watching how he gets to make the suit, and that's cool. And you get the early iteration where he's just wearing the mask, you know, so it's just, you know, he's more like a ninja, you know. So, I mean, you want to make movies for boys, bring back ninjas. Where are the ninja movies? Remember all the ninja movies in the 80s? American Ninja. I mean, God, I mean, there was countless ninja movies. There was Lee Van Cleef and Tim Van Patten in The Master on TV. There was great stuff. I mean,
the Chuck Norris movies, The Octagon, stuff like that.
They don't get it. You know, they just don't get it. Go back and watch Lone Wolf McQuade. I mean, that's a great 80s movie with Chuck Norris. And he's got, you know, he's got the double barrel shotgun, and he's got that old Dodge Charger truck, and I mean, what a badass!
That, the USA movie too. I mean,
Invasion USA. That movie's insane.
That was insane. Blowing up neighborhoods and stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
you know,
dude, it was like on the ground. It was realistic type of stuff.
Those neighborhoods that they were blowing up were set to be condemned. It was a neighborhood that they were got an agreement with the city or whatever to film in. But those homes with their shooting bazookas into and stuff, like in the early sequences of the movies, those are all real homes. They were just going to get bulldozed, and there was going to be a new subdivision go in. So they're able to use it. And the same with the mall. It was an abandoned mall that they do that chase scene through, where they drive the truck through the mall.
Yeah.
God, it's insane. Those canon movies are just off the wall, but they're so much fun. And, you know, some of them are really cheesy. Some of them are, you know, they're very low budget or kind of mid budget. But they're so much fun, and they made a lot of money back then. And it just goes to show you that you do not have to have a $250 million movie, you know, to be the be all end all of your studio. I mean, take that money and make 5 films on a smaller budget, you know?
Yeah. And what you and I do, I know, because I love your 80s posts and stuff like that. I'll go back and watch those old movies before I'll go into a theater, you know? Yeah. I mean, the one thing about the theater experience, I don't want that to go away, because I saw Lilo and Stitch with my granddaughter and my son, you know, 3 generations of family watching Lilo and Stitch. But yeah, some of the YouTube people, some of the younger, I'm not going to name names, but the TNA cosplayer types, you know, they lost their minds, you know, about the ending of Lilo and Stitch. I liked both.
Yeah.
You know, if you really dug into the movies, Tia Carrera, who was in Wayne's World as well, who played the social worker in the live action, she did the voice of Lonnie in the original cartoon movie.
Oh, cool.
So it's like, you know, you should know this stuff. But, you know, I haven't seen the Minecraft movie. I'm not into that, but it made a bazillion dollars, you know?
Right.
So let's go on to DC. Marvel, you know, Doomsday and all that. I don't know. I'm going to go see it.
I think it's 50-50, you know, whereas it used to be more of a 70-30, 80-20 proposition. These movies were going to be big and huge and successful. Now I think it's just kind of a 50-50. I think they're just throwing shit up against a wall to see what'll stick, and throwing darts at a board. And I don't know.
With Deadpool and Wolverine in my theater, when Wesley Snipes came walking in, the entire theater stood up.
Another film,
It was like, it's
right.
simple. Blade should be, now they got Blade in the Marvel Zombies. He's Moonblade, they're calling him.
Okay.
It's Blade wearing a Moon Knight suit, which is like, they crapped all over Moon Knight. And Moon Knight is, they could go West Coast Avengers, but they race swapped Wonder Man, and I have no interest in watching Trevor Slarty do his thing on there. That pissed me off in Iron Man 3 because he was a really good Mandarin.
Yeah.
You know, and then all of a sudden I'm an actor. You know, and I love Ben Kingsley, don't get me wrong, but that pissed me off.
Me too.
You know?
I didn't like that.
Like,
I didn't like that. That was sort of the beginning. That was sort of the beginning of the unraveling, frankly. You know, where I was just starting to. They just take too many liberties, you know, and you know, it's one of those things when you go back and you watch. They're going to re-release all the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies here pretty quick because that's turning, I don't know, 35 or something.
I own Spider-Man 2.1. Man, that's a great, with the extra scenes with Jay Jonah putting on the suit.
The director's cut of that movie is the way to go. All that extra footage from the fight sequence on the subway is they trimmed a lot of that stuff, and there's some extra action in that sequence, which I think is just, it's maybe one of the greatest comic book fight sequences I've ever seen. And you know, John Dykstra, who's the VFX guy on all those movies, he was an early guy at Lucasfilm on Star Wars and Empire. He's the man who understood how to do all that stuff back then and come in on a reasonable budget. It's amazing what they were able to do back then with old tech that still looks better than today's stuff, and it didn't cost an arm and a leg like it does today. It's that VFX industry is a complete and total racket, and it doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. I don't know where the money goes, but you know,
to BlackRock.
Yeah, somewhere, or you know, but it's
whatever.
It's so bizarre to me that you know, even doing squibs, you know, old school squibs, you know, which were used for bullet explosions. You know, now it's all a lot of it's digital. You know, it'd be digital squibs and digital blood. But the old style squibs, even those mid-budget movies, those action movies, like we were talking about from Canon, like Invasion USA or Delta Force or whatever, you know, they were able to do real effects back then. Now, apparently, it's too expensive to do squibs and to wire up the actor. And then you might need, you know, two shirts. If something goes wrong with this take, you might have to switch out the shirt. So that's extra money for wardrobe. Whatever. I don't know. It seemed to work back then. It seemed to work back in the day, and they could make it work. I don't know why they can't today. It's all got to be digital, and they got to take everything in the computer. You know, it's lame. You know, I mean, you know, it's one of those things that Nolan tricked me completely throughout the Nolan verse. Was a lot of those scenes down on Lower Wacker Drive in Chicago, where they shot a lot of the Batmobile chase sequences in Batman Begins and Dark Knight Rises, like with the dump truck and everything. A lot of those are 3/4 miniatures. And I did not know that until I saw these guys hunched down in this 3/4 miniature of Lower Wacker Boulevard in Chicago with this little Batmobile and this little 3/4 inch dump truck. And that's all miniatures. But the way they shoot it, and the way they build those miniatures and the way they do the effects and the explosions and all the debris, I could not tell. I could not tell at all. So it's like, you know,
pretty seamless. I wouldn't have known unless you said something about that.
It's one of those things, man. Even when I go back and I watch it, I still can't tell. The only way I can tell is when I look at stills of those guys working inside there and setting things up, and you can literally see. You know, it's funny. It's like that Ghostbusters when Stay Puft Marshmallow Man shows up. That's all 3/4 miniatures and everything. I mean, there's a lot of still photography of those guys working on that set and doing all the detail in the cars and the street, and it's just amazing with the right lighting and the right miniatures and the right talent that what you can do. And I just think to myself, you know, that's old school movie magic, and they've gotten away from it so much because of the relative ease of the CGI, but
it seems to cost more, doesn't it, though?
It costs more, and I just think that in a lot of ways, the more digital, you know, things you add to it, it just becomes kind of lifeless. It just becomes less and less of something that has like a human stamp on it. And then that sort of, I think, takes away the authenticity. So, and I think that's what people crave today more than anything is really authenticity, sincerity, along with obviously good writing and entertainment. But there's a real lack of authenticity. And it's kind of like, do these people that make this stuff, do they care? Do they really care that they're making anything of quality for us? Or is it just a bunch of tech bros back there who are funding all this stuff and saying, you know, we just want to make content? Because there's a big difference between entertainment and content. You know, content is fungible. It's, you know, it's like fruit, you know, it's going to go bad at some point in time, but great entertainment obviously lasts generations. You know, people are still talking about Casablanca, you know, and
right.
You know, classic.
And like back to that Batman clip, Batman saying they just don't, they know, they just don't care.
I think there's a lot of truth in that.
We've gotten to that point, you know.
And that's and Justine Bateman has talked about a lot of this on X, and she talks about how you know,
the message overrides good movie making.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great.
But I also think she said something about that the people that are making the movies don't love movies and they don't love storytelling, whereas you know the Goldwins and the Mayers and even going into the 60s and the 70s when those guys died and you had new studio heads come in, those people were there because they loved it. I mean, they love the money and they love that aspect of it, obviously, but these people were there for a reason, and that's that they love storytelling and they love making movies, and they took great care in each movie in the sense that, okay, we're going to minimize our risk and get the best talent attached to this as possible. So, and they made twice the amount of movies back then. I mean, the volume of movies that they made back then compared to today, you know, it's even from these series, it's like, yes, Landman is going to be out soon, and I'm excited about that. But how long have I waited for what's going to be, 8 or 10 episodes?
The turnaround time
sucks, man. I mean, Magnum PI, you know, Simon and Simon, Rockford.
You'd get a new season in the fall, the next year,
and you would also get 20 episodes.
Right.
You know, I mean, Magnum, I think like on a short season, you might get 13. Right. But like that first season, it's like 19 episodes. You get a lot. A-Team, Airwolf. I mean, you know, the turnaround time on these shows back then, and also the turnaround time on movies was just absolutely insane. And it's largely because you had really talented people who wanted to be there and were really invested. You know, they had the skin in the game. I
like Stranger Things, but look how long we've waited.
That's my thing, man. The turnaround
is like, it's coming up at the end of the year. Thank goodness.
But I forgot about it. You know, I forgot about it. And
I'm going to have to go back and rewatch the last couple episodes because I forget where we're at. You know?
No, I'm with you, man. It's the same thing. And I just say to myself, why don't these people understand what they're doing is not a good formula? It doesn't work. You know, and why don't they understand that you need to go back to, you know, the formula, and streaming has nothing to do with it. You know, it's just you know, it's just basic kind of rules of entertainment. We're going to crank stuff out for you as fast as possible at a good quality, you know, but we're going to give you a lot of bang for your buck. And 7-8 episodes, man, it's just not enough. I just, even Reacher, Tulsa King, you know, I don't care what it is. I got to wait 7. I got to wait a year for this stuff. I just think it's asking too much of the audience. And that's why people are canceling streaming services left and right.
Well, and I just watched something on Prime, Brett, which I encourage you to watch, Butterfly. It's about a father and daughter assassin team. And the girl thinks the father is dead. And then he comes back alive because he had faked his death to protect her. Now she's an assassin. And it's from South Korea. Outside the country are making some cool things.
They are,
actually. It's a great series,
yeah.
But it's only 6 episodes and it ends on a cliffhanger. And then I Googled it to see if there's a new season. They're saying, well, we're going to wait and see how it does. It's like, dude, leave me hanging, man. I was invested into this father-daughter relationship because I have 2 daughters, man.
Yeah.
And beside the assassin thing, it was good storytelling to where it underlying it reflected the father-daughter relationship, how she becomes a stepdaughter to this other little girl. You know, it was some cool stuff. It was good storytelling, and beside the kick-ass stuff. And that's where I don't mind. It's she wasn't a girl boss. She was just good at what she did, and they teamed up, which was really cool. You know?
Yeah. I like. I'm liking Dark Wolf because I'm enjoying not only the kind of the James Bond. You know, Jack Carr kind of doing a bit of James Bond, but a team. It's almost like the A-Team meets James Bond kind of. You know, we're three episodes in, but I really like Terminal List. But I actually, when I was watching Terminal List, I kept thinking, I'm more interested in Taylor Kitsch's character, and I don't know why.
I like Dark Wolf more than the
so do I.
Terminal, and I like Taylor Kitsch. I liked him as John Carter.
Yeah,
I liked him as his little Gambit thing. You know, he's a solid
really
actor.
good. Yeah, man.
But I liked him with Chris Pratt. You know.
Yeah, so. I do too. But I'm really liking it, and I like the women too. I like how he writes the women. You know, they're not girl bosses. They're not know-it-alls. They're capable, interesting characters that are have their own motivations for being there, which is different. And you know, they are sort of in the same mold as the female protagonists and action heroes that we had growing up. Because Jack Carr and I are, I think, about the same age, probably either approaching 50 or he's maybe a couple years older than me. But it's the same with Sheridan. You know, I find both those guys write men and women sort of in a similar template that we had growing up, and I think that's great. I think it's refreshing, and I think that's why people like it. So, but Dark Wolf is really good, man. It's fun.
Yeah, I know. I'm into it. I'm just on episode 2 right now.
Yeah,
so,
they need, you know, Jack Carr needs more. I mean, that guy could create an entire universe similar to. I mean, there could be the Carr verse and there's the Sheridan verse, but Jack Carr needs to be creating more stuff. That's a really talented guy. Super talented.
And the story moves good. Okay, well, let's Marvel. You know, wait and see. Doomsday, Secret Wars. You know, Hickman is a complicated writer. I don't know how they're going to pull off Doomsday with no buildup to it. Really, you know, I mean, I read all those comic books. You know, time runs out. You know, blow up the freaking TVA. I hate the TVA. You know, that was the one bummer about Deadpool and Wolverine. They had to bring the TVA into it, and I understand. I understand why, but I hated Loki season 2. You know,
this multiverse
stuff, the character.
This multiverse stuff. As much fun as Deadpool Wolverine was, it just drives me crazy, and it drove me crazy in the comics. And but you know,
well, DC had how many Earths, man?
Oh,
until George Perez rat.
I know.
I mean,
I know George Perez threw them all. You know.
Hail to the king, baby.
What the hell are you two doing? That's called rocking out. You wouldn't understand, Dad. You're not with it. I used to be with it, but then they changed what it was. Now what I'm with isn't it, and what's it seems weird and scary to me. It'll happen to you.
And this is Dr. Gonzo for all you baby boomers. Hey, like and subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you right around the corner.